Alright, so today I'm going to be doing a review of my new propane forge. This is called a Devil Forge from Lithuania. It's made in Lithuania, and it runs on propane. I was using coal up until this point, but I decided to move to propane for several reasons. One of them was I was hoping to get into more production work, and this is kind of the thing you need to be doing more production work. Working with coal, you can do it, but it's not quite as effective. I didn't want to move into propane until recently because it's a lot more expensive. When you're burning propane, it's a lot more expensive than coal, and even just the machine itself is a lot more expensive. This one cost just about, I believe it was $700 with shipping to Canada. So that's how much it costs. And this is the 3-burner model. It's technically the sword model, but it works for anything. Like I usually only run it on one burner. As you can see, it has valves that you can switch off and on different burners. So I found it effective just to run one burner, and when I'm forge welding, I usually run 2 to get it a bit hotter. And the reason I got the 3 burners is so that I can use it to forge swords, which I'm hoping to do in the near future. So that's going to be nice, but it runs perfectly fine with just one burner. So I would say if people are concerned about this being too big, you don't have to worry, because you can just run one burner and it runs perfectly fine. It doesn't lose any heat. Yeah, so I built this stand. Well, I got the stand. I built on some parts to it. So you can see I built this arm here for the hose. And first, when you get the forge, it's got holes here. I'll show you what they look like. So there used to be gaps here where the burners are inserted, and when you get this forge, it comes with 3 like rounds or little pieces of KO wool. So you can use them to plug the ends, which I usually keep one end plugged, which makes it more effective for running one burner. And they gave 3 of these, so then I had one for each end. And I didn't really think about it at first, about how to plug these, because flames are shooting up here, and obviously you don't want flames next to your propane line. But eventually I figured it out that I should just rip them up, and I shoved them in here, and it's a pretty tight seal. Cranked it real tight, it's pretty secure, and it runs a lot hotter now because there's not the heat escaping up here. You can see, I don't know if you can see that this knob here got actually burned when I had it running. When I was doing some Damascus, I had it running pretty hot, so then the flames were coming out and they were burning this little lever there. So that's one thing I would advise: just make sure that you have all your holes plugged so that it burns hotter and it's safer. So the stand, it's on wheels, which means I can roll it in and out of storage very easily. It's very easy to move around. It's got some weight to it, so it's not going to just roll away, which is nice. And I'm running a 30-pound propane tank here. And I chose a 30-pound because really it fit right under here. But one thing that I didn't know when I chose this is if you're doing a lot of forging, like say you're doing like Damascus or something, and you're running a lot of propane, or if you're running all 3 burners, then these tanks tend to freeze up and they can just trail off and they're not going to work. So, and then you have to thaw them out before they'll work again, which when you're doing Damascus can be, it took me maybe 2 hours of doing Damascus for the whole thing to just freeze up. But once you're running with like just one burner, you can go pretty much all day if you're doing that. Like I haven't had any issues just running one burner, but if you're doing Damascus or something, I'd advise a bigger tank if you're going to do Damascus all day. And I've been thinking about that, but right now the one tank seems to work. The other thing I thought about was putting another tank here, and then having like a fork into here so that you could run just a little bit of propane out of each. But I haven't, we'll see how it works in the winter. If it gets too cold in the winter and it doesn't work at all, then I might have to get a second tank. But right now it seems to be working just fine. Yeah. So another thing about the propane is just the cost of propane. Like compared to coal, I was burning, it cost me maybe $2 a day of coal, maybe, if I was going maybe 6 hours of forging. This 6 hours of forging, I'd say, is probably about double that, maybe triple, which I mean, even at that cost, it's not terribly much, but when you're doing something like Damascus, then you're going to be using a lot more coal. Like when I was doing Damascus, then I was going through almost $20 of propane a day. I'd say about $15, $16 of propane per day when you're forging welding like that hot. So that's one thing to consider. since then I've kind of done some different things. Like right now, I would just run one burner usually, and when I'm doing stuff now, I'm always running with a couple things in the forge, so I can turn the temperature way low, and I'm like running very little propane. So it takes everything a while to heat up, but if I've got 5 or 6 knives in there, that's alright, because one will always be hot while the others are slowly heating up, so I can always be working, but I'm running very little propane and I'm getting a lot of work done. So just kind of things like that that I've been trying to keep in mind. But I would definitely advise, if you're going to get this forge, to get a stand like this. It's so convenient to move around and just have. I have a plywood board here that I can throw things on. I've got chisels, I've got flux, and just various miscellaneous stuff that everything just stores right under here. It's really convenient. I don't have to store things elsewhere or go and get things. All stuff that I would need when I'm forging is right here. So I would definitely advise that. Also, one thing I did is I made a little tong rack for my small collection of tongs. It's really nice just to be able to throw them on here. It's just a piece of rebar bent and then welded onto the plate of the top there. It's really nice just to have something you can throw your tongs on and don't have to worry about them. They all stay right here. Next time I think I would put this on the other side. I was planning on using that side, working from that side more, but in the end I'm starting working from this side because I'm only running one burner. So I would have preferred to use on that side because I'm left-handed. That way I'm right-handed, so I could grab it with my left hand. But I've adapted, and it works just fine for me. So that's one thing to consider. One thing about propane forges that I didn't really know when I got it is how flux eats away at all like the insulation. The first time I tested it out by making a billet of Damascus, and you can kind of see in there that the bricks have, especially the middle one there where I put the Damascus, it's just completely eaten away, and like even on the sides a little bit. I don't know if you can see that there. It's gotten eaten away, and yeah, I can't kind of hard to tell from here. Let's see if I can. Well, this one is broken. You can see. Just from the, I don't know, I guess I was a bit rough on it, or temperature changes too much, but yeah, like these ones are fused down there. The flux has melted the bricks onto the KO wool lining, but the flux eats away at the KO wool. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're doing Damascus is try to not bump the sides of the forge with your piece, because otherwise you can get it, well, it'll eat away at the wool here, which is a pain. Then you have to reline it, which I don't think is too expensive, but it's just a pain, you know. You like to have it working good, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Just try to be gentle on the bricks. I guess I placed something down a little too hard when it was too hot, and it broke, because these bricks are just very, very fragile when they're so hot. But otherwise it's been working really good, so that's one thing to just keep in mind is when you're using flux, that it will eat away at your forge lining. So yeah, that's my review for this forge. In conclusion, I really, really like it. It's a wonderful machine to use. It heats up everything evenly compared to coal. Moving from coal was such a totally changed everything. Like, it's so much cleaner. Like, you're not dirty and covered in ash at the end of the day. It burns clean, it burns hot. You don't have to worry about fumes. Well, it's just propane, but it's pretty safe. And if you're outside, you're getting a decent breeze. You don't have to worry about like the coal dust, which is quite carcinogenic. So that's really nice. It's clean, it's hot. You can burn it like inside as long as you have the door open. You don't have to worry about sparks. There's no big flames. Well, the flames come out here, but usually everything is pretty much contained in here. One thing, it throws a lot of heat, so you want to be careful if you're putting it too close to a wall. Yeah, just kind of common sense with fire. It is still a very hot fire. It will forge weld steel. I don't think it'll melt steel, but it's definitely, I've done lots of forge welding with it and it's worked just fine. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, is that it does throw a lot of heat. For example, when you have it forge welding, like, you can feel the heat like five feet away. You can still feel the heat pretty good. So it's not going to burn anything at that distance. Like, obviously, even like I just put like spray paint on here and it hasn't melted it or burned it too much, but you'll still feel the heat, which can be nice if you're working in the winter, especially Canadian winters, and you need to warm up. You just throw your forge on for a bit. It's like a instant shock heater almost. But no, it works really good. I definitely advise this to anyone who's looking to like move to professional bladesmithing or blacksmithing. something that they need more to do more production work. It's just such a pleasure to do production work, but if you're not doing production work where you're not making a lot of things at once and you're not kind of working fast and trying to work as efficiently as you can, then I wouldn't advise something, at least not this model, something not this big, since it burns a lot of propane. And if you're just doing things like as a hobby and stuff like that, it might not be worth it to get such a big unit. If you're still looking at propane, which is a pleasure because it works so easily, then I would advise maybe a smaller model, like a 2-burner or even a 1-burner model, because you can always like upgrade and change things around if you want it. So, but for me, this works pretty good. I wouldn't have bought it before I did, because before that I was just doing one-off works and not using, just kind of messing around a lot with some stuff. So now that I'm actually doing production work, it just makes the time go by so much quicker. And so yeah, it's such a pleasure to work. You don't have to be constantly maintaining a fire. You don't have to be bringing in more coal, getting so dirty. And yeah, I would definitely advise it. This one was just around $700 total, shipped, everything included. And it has it came with the hose, the regulator, all this stuff here. And all you have to do is put it together and hook it up to a propane tank. So that was pretty good. So yeah. Oh, one more thing. With the burners here, you can adjust the temperature by opening and letting more air in. One thing that I discovered right when I started it up, I had the burners open full, and I had all of them going actually. And I lit a match here, and as soon as I turned it on, it just exploded fire out of both ends. So one thing you want to do is just like light it slowly, like let your air down and slowly build up your air, so that you're not gonna be making like a massive explosion. So yeah, there's just a lot of things to learn. If you haven't used Propane Forge before, it's just a bit of a learning experience. But in a week or so, I've used it for a couple months now, and it's totally comfortable, and it works great. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the review. I'd definitely check them out if you're interested in forging. They've got some smaller units that I think the cheapest ones go, I could be wrong, maybe around $200 Canadian, maybe less, maybe 150. So if you're looking at some cheaper units, they've got good ones, and they're good quality machines so far, like good tight, like all the welding is good, everything's sturdy and secure. And yeah, I definitely look into it if you're looking to do more forging. Thank you.